Hey everyone, I'm here with the Raditude episode. It's really my first one that I'm doing. This is going to be visual and audio, so I'm going to have a lot of fun with it, and hopefully you all too. A lot of people ask me about my sort of slogan, my life slogan, living rad and loving contagiously. And today I'm going to talk about living rad and loving contagiously. But really, I'm going to talk about loving contagiously, kind of where it came from and where it's headed, because it's a journey. And so it started actually with Tony Robbins' event called Date with Destiny. It was my very first event with Tony back in 2014. If any of you have seen the movie on Netflix called I'm Not Your Guru, that was my first event. I didn't really even know who Tony Robbins was. But it was after my cross-country season at Pepperdine University had ended and before track season, so I had some time off. And a friend of mine, a platinum partner, he was a 22-year-old platinum partner with Tony Robbins. He invited me to go to Florida and see this event called Date with Destiny. And I thought, I remember Tony. He was that guy that hypnotized Jack Black in Shallow Hal, one of the funniest, best movies I've seen. I go, okay, well, that sounds good. I'm going to go to that. And so I go to the event. And because he's a platinum partner, we get to sit in front, and I'm just sitting there waiting next to him, and there's this guy from England next to me, and all of a sudden the music comes on, and this guy jumped out of his seat, and he was going wild, dancing and singing and yelling and screaming, and I was just an introvert at that point. I would like cower down, go like, what is this? Get me out of this. And but I didn't leave. I wanted to. And I remember Tony saying something that's kind of really stuck with me. He said, many of you are here, and you probably don't know very many people, if anyone here. And so take this opportunity to perhaps be someone else, be someone that you haven't. Experiment. And I go, I'm an introvert. I know you don't believe me, but I'm naturally an introvert. And I said, I'm going to be an extrovert. And by the afternoon, I was up there yelling and screaming, and that's really started accelerating my personal development journey. Now, that Date with Destiny event, it was really cool. It was set in at the end of the year, at least here in the U.S. In Australia, it was in April or May before COVID. And it was the perfect thing because you develop your purpose or mission in life. You develop some goals, some values, your relationship vision, your rules around values, your power virtues, some really cool stuff. And you put it on this board. It's sort of like a vision board, a big poster board. And I went 8 years in a row because I thought it was just amazing. But when I was developing my mission or purpose in life, it was very, very long and very corporate-y. I had actually, in my latter years at Exxon, I was a chemical engineer with Exxon in my first career. I helped people develop their purpose or missions in life, and they were really long. I mean, Exxon's mission was something like to be the foremost energy producer in America, helping to develop the resources in an environmentally safe manner so that everyone could live happy lives. Wasn't exactly that, but it was kind of like that. And at Date with Destiny, you develop your mission. At the end of the week, you have to yell it and scream it to your partner. I couldn't remember it. And I know that the trainers there, they kept telling me, you got to shorten it, got to make it more succinct. And I said, but this is my mission. This is it. And it took 5 years of working with it to finally hit my mission. And it was just something that was kind of channeled. It just came to me. You know how sometimes things just come to you, which I think is really, really cool and something we should all be listening for, develop that skill. I don't know if I really have, but every once in a while I get really good messages. But in this case, the mission or purpose that came to me was to love contagiously. And it just like hit me in the heart. And it was like, that's it. That's it. That's exactly what I want to be able to do. I want to love contagiously. I didn't really know what it meant, but I figured I'd discover it. And it was short enough when I yelled it and screamed it to my buddy, I could remember it. A couple of weeks after that, I was back home and a group that I'm in, we were getting together to make some gift baskets for a battered women's shelter. And the lady that was hosting it had a basket full of these buttons, and they're called love buttons. Hope you could see that well enough. And she said, just grab as many as you want. And I thought to myself, love contagiously, and these love buttons just showed up. And I grabbed a big handful of them and put it in my cargo pants. And during the holidays, I started passing it out to waiters, waitresses, flight attendants. It was really kind of cool because people really lit up with it. And I started to run out. And I go, oh no, I've got to get some. And so I ordered, they're come in these bags. I ordered a bunch of them. Well, I looked on the wrapper. They come in little wrappers here. Can't see that very well. The wrappers. And on the wrapper it said Love Button Global Movement. So I Googled it to find out, what is this thing? After all, it could be like a Nazi organization or something. And I called it up on the website. And the website, the banner picture was an aerial shot of the Super Bowl from a few years before in San Jose. So it was an aerial shot looking down at it. And the Super Bowl was from the year my Denver Broncos won the Super Bowl in San Jose. So there's another sign going like, this is it. And the picture was everyone in the stands holding up placards, and they spelled out love in the whole stadium. It's really kind of a cool picture. And so I go, okay, this isn't a Nazi organization. This is kind of a cool organization. And it looks to me like they're loving contagiously. I've got to read more. Now, for those of you that know Chris Martin from Coldplay, they were the halftime entertainment that year. And I go, okay, that's kind of cool. And I read a little bit further, and Chris Martin bought 75,000 love buttons and gave one to everyone in the stadium. And I thought, that's cool. Now, I'm not super rich like Chris Martin, but I decided to buy 1,000 of them. And that over the next year, if I gave out about 3 a day, I'd give out 1,000 in a year. So I went back to my Date with Destiny board, my vision board, and I wrote that on as an extra goal that I'm going to give out 1,000 love buttons in the coming year. It's pretty cool. And the interesting part, well, there's a lot of interesting parts about it, obviously. I had it sent to me at Pepperdine University, where I was coaching track and field and cross country, both men's and women's at the time. But I had it sent there rather than home. I don't know why, but it was just part of what happens in life, right? Sometimes just serendipity. Those are the things that happen. But the story goes on that, oh, by the way, Chris Martin, I learned from my athletes, gives these out at his concerts. And so that's kind of cool. But the story was this organization was founded by 2 doctors. They were husband and wife, and they had a patient, a cancer patient, and they had exhausted all the cancer treatments. They had tried everything, and they decided, and they told her that you're probably going to die. And so they decided just to pour love into her. And the husband, one night, he got a vision of the little logo in the love button. I don't know if you can see it very well. I tried to cup it like that. It's upside down. It's like that. That's the logo. He had that vision, and he wrote it down on a piece of paper or kind of colored it in, and then he cut it out in a circle, and he pinned it to his doctor's coat. And then he went about his hospital rounds. Pretty soon, other people, other doctors, nurses, staff started noticing it, and so he started making it for other people. People lit up. Just like when I was passing out, people light up from love. And lo and behold, the lady survived. And so they felt like that was a sign, and they created what they called the Love Button Global Movement. And they made the button, the first one had a pin in it. The ones I've got now have a magnet to it, so it's really cool because it doesn't make a hole in people's clothes. And they decided they were going to sell these, and the money they made, the profits they made, would go to loving organizations. So pretty cool. I've now given out between 11 and 12,000 of these in the last few years, and at various Tony events or Joe Dispenza events, I'm a trainer, senior leader at those. With Dr. Joe, I'm part of his company called NeuroChangeSolutions. We're bringing some of his teachings into corporations. At each one of his events, though, we have a booth set up, and I often am manning the booth and talking to people that might be interested in either becoming a trainer with him, or that, and better for me, that they want to talk about bringing one of the consultants into their company and to provide the training. So in Nashville, a little more than a month ago, and this is kind of, I divert with the story because it's so cool and it adds to this. A woman came up and I'm talking with her about it, and I give her one of the love buttons. And I tell her the story that I just told you. And I may have exaggerated it. I might not have it totally right, but it fits, right? But I told her the story. And she started tearing up. And I thought, uh-oh, what did I say? What did I do? And I said, is everything okay? And she looks at me and she says, I was the woman. And I said, what? She said, I was that woman. And I even get goosebumps kind of now listening to me say it. I said, wow. And she wanted to, and we took pictures of the two of us, did a selfie, and we sent it to the two doctors who she's friends with now. They saved her life. And I thought, this is so cool. This is really loving contagiously. So anyway, that was kind of a really cool story. But I ordered that 1,000. I had it sent to me at Pepperdine. And a few days later, I get an email from the director of the movement. And the email said, we're so excited. Pepperdine University is the first university in the nation taking on our movement. We want to come over and meet you. And I thought, oh, that's kind of cool. But I sent back a note saying, it's not really Pepperdine University. It's not at all Pepperdine University. It's just me. I'm a coach, and actually NCAA rules prevent me from giving the love buttons to any of the students on campus, or any students anywhere, actually. It's an extra benefit rule violation. So I sent back a note telling her that. And she sends back a note saying, well, that's okay. We still want to come meet you because it turns out after Chris Martin, you're the second largest purchaser of love buttons ever. I don't know if that's still true or not, but that's what she wrote, or at least that's what I remember. But then I looked at her signature line, it had her name, director, and then it had a 305 area code. And because I recruit across the nation, I knew that was in Miami, and I'm in Malibu, California. So I sent back a note saying, thank you very much, but Miami's like 3,500 miles away from Malibu. It's kind of far to come visit, but thank you very much. So then she sends back a note saying, oh, sorry about that. That's my cell phone number. It turns out that our world headquarters are just over the hill from you in Agoura, California, where I was living at the time. In fact, the world headquarters are less than a mile from my home, and the hospital where the two doctors work is the local hospital. And I go, wow, is that cool or what? So I got my love buttons, started handing them out, and after a couple years or so, do you know that show Modern Family? It's an American sitcom, it's pretty popular, or was. I don't know if it's still on or not. I don't really watch much TV. But Chris Martin is a guest star on one of the episodes of Modern Family. And on that show, he wears his love button. He had it right on his shirt, like I usually do. And so within a few minutes of that episode airing, I started getting contacted by people all across the U.S., because by that time I think I'd given out about 5,000 of them. And everyone wanted to know how I gave one of my love buttons to Chris Martin. So I had to kind of explain to him, well, this is what's really happening. Actually, Chris Martin inspired me to get them. And so that was kind of interesting. Then my final story, maybe my final story about this, is the last date with Destiny before COVID. last live one before COVID. 3 people come to me one was from Singapore, one was from Australia, and one was from Norway. And they all came separately. They didn't know each other. They just came at different times during the 6-day event. But they all had kind of the similar story. And their story was on their way over from their country, in their local airport, they saw someone that had a backpack and had a love button on the backpack. And they happened to ask them where they got the love button. And each of them replied the same thing. They said they got it from this hairy-legged guy in California. They knew it was me. At the Tony Robbins events, I always wear shorts and flip-flops and a little shirt and freeze, because if any of you have been to Tony, it is really cold there, and I freeze. And that actually came from Tony, too, that very first event where he said that you learn the best when you're uncomfortable. And so I just took that as I'm going to just wear a T-shirt and shorts and a flip-flop and freeze because I want to learn more. That's what it's all about, right? Anyway, that's my love button story. And now I've given out, like I said, between 11,000, 12,000. And it's really starting to love contagiously on the outside, which is really cool. In fact, I was on an Abraham Hicks cruise. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit in March. My first Abraham event, I didn't really even know who she, they, it was when I went on that one either. But during one of I think it was the magic show, someone was sitting next to me, and she got into the magic show, but I gave her a love button and gave her one for her husband and 3 kids too who weren't there. She was just sitting by herself. And we exchanged contact information. A few days later, she sent me an email thanking me for the love button and explaining to me how magical it's become for her son, who was fairly introverted. But when he got his love button, he gave it to, I think it was his teacher, and who lit up. And he asked her, "Mommy, can we get some more of these love buttons? It's fun to give them out." So Mom bought 300 of them, and they started handing them out in the malls and everywhere they went. And she said she's never seen her son light up so much, and that she ordered even more. And I know that several people that I've given them to have been doing this. So it truly is loving contagiously. So that's how this really all started, this loving contagiously thing. Now, in the last few months, I've gone on this journey, and I'm calling it my inner engineering or inner joy journey. Because I live a great life on the outside, but I don't know that I've ever really felt the things that a lot of people feel inside. I probably do, but I'm a former engineer, and I don't recognize it, or it's just my story. Just my story, that I need to go find inner joy. And so that's what I've been working on. And I remember several months ago, my son asked me, he goes, "Dad, what is love?" And I go, oh, this is one of those hard questions. What is love? Well, it's when you really like someone a lot and you're willing to do things for. I was stumbling around with the answer to that question. And he wasn't very satisfied, I know, because he's on his own journey to figure out what love is and does he feel love and those kinds of things. And, oftentimes in a lot of personal development, I hear the answer to everything being it starts with self-love. You got to love yourself. And I started actually kind of thinking about that, like, do I love myself? Or I think I do, but I don't know what that means either. So I went to the dictionary to look up Webster's dictionary, or I probably went to Google and just Googled love. And there was an answer there. It's kind of cool. Don't remember what it was, but it was some words. But I was really tying it into this loving contagiously, and that I was loving contagiously. I try to love on people as much as I can. I give out the love buttons. I hug people. I try to love on people, and I thought that if I'm loving on people, that maybe they become more loving to other people, and that was what it was all about. But on this inner journey, I started kind of rethinking that. Everything's a journey, right? The journey toward love, the journey toward everything, journey toward self-love, whatever that means. but I think I'm actually making good progress in it. In November, December or so, though, because I'm on a mission now. I'm going to figure out self-love. I'm going to figure out inner joy. I'm going to figure out, I didn't tie it into loving contagiously, but I think it does, because you've got to love yourself in order to love contagiously. I don't know if I've ever even said that, but I'm saying it now because I was thinking about this episode, what I'm going to say, and this is what's coming out. So I went to the Barnes & Noble bookstore because I wanted to get a book to read during, I think, Thanksgiving. I needed a book because I'm going to be by a pool in Puerto Vallarta. I got a timeshare that our family's had for 40 years. And so that's where I go. And I'm walking around trying to figure out what's going to be the right book. And maybe 50 feet away on one of the bookshelves, you know how most books, they're kind of lined up there so that the back of the book you can read the title. And then every once in a while, if there's a book that they want you to read, it's this way. 50 feet away, I see the words inner engineering. And I walk straight to it. It was like it pulled it to me. It's like I attracted it. I'll talk about that in a little bit. But I looked at it. It's by a guy named Sadhguru. Never heard of him. I know probably a lot of you have. I didn't. But I bought that book, and I started reading it, and it was so cool. It was exactly what I was looking for. Inner engineering was about finding inner joy, inner peace, inner self-love. I think I read it 3 or 4 times. I got it highlighted. I got notes in there. I signed up for his 4-day class in Tennessee that I went to. I signed up for his online class, which you do the online, and then you go to 2 days of completion. I did that too. I was really into it, and it was just wonderful. But it started really opening me up to this inner joy thing, this whatever this is that I'm pursuing. Is really, really cool. And everyone has their own journey. This is just mine. I'm just sharing it with you because you could, should, will, maybe go on your own journey, and books will turn to you or someone will say something. I just become conscious of your unconscious. I remember when I first started hearing about that was when I read the book probably 25 plus years ago, Celestine Prophecy. And it's the story of all the serendipity things that are unfolding in your life that we mostly miss. But if you start paying attention, you start noticing all these really cool things, and, life unfolds for you the way it's supposed to, the way it's meant to, the way it serves you, the way whatever you believe in. It's pretty cool, though. So anyway, Sadhguru really made a huge impression on me. A lot of it is yoga, and I'm a long-distance runner, so that part of it's really hard. The mind part of it, though, is fascinating. Then shortly after that, Jay Shetty came out with his book, The 8 Rules of Love, and I read that and devoured that. I think it came out on January 31st. I read that one a bunch of times, too, and highlighted it. And I think I gave my book to somebody else and bought another one and highlighted it. The 8 Rules of Love, very simple rules that in general I didn't even know, even though I've gone to a lot of relationship loving kinds of workshops. He said some unique things there, and that opened me up too. And then the next thing that came to me was I have a platinum partner, Tony Robbins' platinum partner friend, Claudette Anderson, and she has something called the Truth Method. And I have some friends that have been working with her over the years, and they just speak highly of her. And we weren't that great friends. I just remember her from it, saw her at a couple events and things like that. But I sent her an email, I think, or I went to her site. Somehow I reached out to her and said, hey, Claudette, I want to find out about this truth method that you're doing. And so we set up, I think, a 15-minute discovery call. And she explained it to me, and it was really, really kind of cool. So I won't talk about Claudette's process, but the truth method, what it essentially is, or what she's discovered over 29 years of working to discover this, is that she believes that inside of us, we all have a little g God within us, or what she calls truth, or the Holy Spirit, or source, or the universe, or whatever you believe in spiritually. I think it works for everyone. But that and maybe it's just your intuition, but that there is something inside of us, maybe a guidance system or the truth, but that our ego is often driving us and that it gets in the way. And when we could ask our ego or kick our ego out and we could talk to truth, that we could get better direction in life. And so I signed up for that program too. It's a year-long program. Amazing. I've got one-on-one sessions with Claudette. We've got group calls Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. She's developed this incredible app to be able to learn and be consistent with it, which I'm probably not. But now that I say it, I'm going to be right, Claudette. It's an amazing process. Reach out to Claudette Anderson with the Truth Method, though, if you want to check into it. I think it's phenomenal. And then Abraham Hicks showed up in my life. And this was kind of interesting how it happened, too. I'm in a Platinum Partner WhatsApp chat group. And in one of the groups, someone said, hey, why don't a bunch of us go on this Abraham Hicks cruise to the Caribbean? And like about 25 people said, oh, yeah, I'm in. I go, I'm in too. Sounds good. I don't know what it is, but I'm in this mode where I just say yes to whatever seems to pop up. And it sounds like a cool thing. So I'm going to go, even though it's one day after I get back from my Thailand trip where I'm taking a group there to teach them the NeuroChangeSolutions program, the Dr. Joe program that I teach to corporations and open events. By the way, I'm taking a group to the Greek islands July 29th to August 5th. And I still have a few spots available in that one. If you want to join me, reach out and I'll send you an incredible brochure. It's going to be an incredible event called Hidden Gems of the Greek islands or something like that. But we're going to some magical places that even if you've been to the Greek islands, we're going to the hidden gems. We're not going to the super touristy spots where everyone has to go or has gone. We're going to the hidden gems, the real Greece. And I'm going to be teaching my program there. So, where was I? This is kind of fun, huh? So, Abraham Hicks. So I'm in, right? It turns out of that 25, only 4 of us went, but that's okay. It was an amazing experience. But one of the reasons also that I went is that my last kind of long-term relationship, my partner, she was really into Abraham Hicks. And I don't know if she asked me to listen at all and I didn't hear that, or if she never asked, but I remembered that she was into it. And it was in some ways, it was the most beautiful relationship I've ever been in. And in some ways, it was the most challenging one. And I didn't understand exactly how she was as a person. And I thought that maybe this Abraham Hicks would give me some clues to her. So that was kind of an additional motive incentive for going. And it turns out I really did learn a lot about who she is from Abraham, because a lot of the things that Abraham says, she was saying, and I didn't understand it. Anyway, I went on the trip. And for those of you that might not know Abraham Hicks, it's actually Esther Hicks. She was married to a guy named Jerry Hicks, who's since passed away. But Esther channels from up there in the non-physical world. It's multiple non-physical beings, and they told her to call them Abraham. And on the cruise and at events, I went to a one-day event in Denver a few weeks ago. They call on people from the audience to come up to what they call the hot seat, and they could ask any question they want about anything. But it's really a fascinating experience. And they talk about the difference between the law of assertion, which I think I've been doing most of my life. I think I can manifest anything to happen in life. I've got visions, I've got goals, I got affirmations, I do hypnosis, I self-hypnotize, I try to will things to happen, and I think that I can. In fact, most of the times when something doesn't happen, I'm like surprised that it didn't happen. Like when I went to Pepperdine University, it never occurred to me that I wouldn't build a championship program. I thought, how many NCAA championships would I win there? And I didn't even get close. And it was like, how did that happen? Anyway, I call that the law of assertion. And what they teach is the law of attraction. And I've heard of that. I read The Secret before. In fact, turns out that The Secret is the story about Abraham Hicks and Jerry and Esther. At the last minute, they kind of backed out, but it's really their story. If you Google it, you can find out sort of what happened. Anyway, they talk about the law of attraction and that there are 5 steps in their process. And the first step is that you simply ask. Whatever you want in life, you ask for it. But you don't put it on a vision board. You don't make goals and affirmations and think about it all the time, because they actually say that that's kind of resistance. But you just ask for it and let that sit. Because step 2 is your inner being, or it could be your truth or Holy Spirit or source or universe or guidance system, whatever you want to call it, that part of you just makes it happen. So it's done. Except that step 3 is the part where you've got to do. And step 3 is you sort of get out of the way and that you don't really think much about it. You chill and you vibrate as high as you can. And that when you're vibrating high, you're approaching this inner being that they talk about. And when your vibration matches your ask, the ask appears. It's attracted. And I think back on my life, and that's happened a lot. When I'm really in a good place, I'm vibrating high. I didn't have those words before, but when you're vibrating high, magic happens, and it happens all the time. But when you become conscious of it, and you choose to vibrate high more and more magic happens, and you attract things. In fact, you get closer and closer to your ask. And the other part of this step 3 is that you recognize when you have resistance and you eliminate resistance. And resistance is anything that is not vibrating high. So even thinking about something, you kind of think about it like, I didn't have that national championship. That's resistance. It's actually thinking from a place of lack. And so if your momentum, if your energy, if your vibration is on the way up, you keep thinking about whatever you're thinking about to keep you up. But if your momentum is down, and as we know from Joe Dispenza world, 70% of all our thoughts are negative. That's what research shows. So becoming conscious of your unconscious is really important, because that's all resistance. And if you want to attract your ask, you've got to vibrate high. So becoming conscious of those negative things. When your momentum is going downwards, you shift that thinking. You think about things that are fun and interesting. Now, you want to feel the feelings. It's not just a mind thought thing. It is, you really want to just vibrate high and eliminate resistance. That's pretty cool. Step 4 has become really consistent with it. And step 5, I think, is brilliant. Step 5 is that you appreciate the contrast that life brings you, because you don't really know what you want or what you don't want until you experience something and go, I don't want that, or I want more of that. And then you appreciate it. And coming back to this concept of loving contagiously, this worked so well for me because what I started thinking, particularly about relationships, we get in relationships and we're often triggered by our partner. And we think to ourselves, I can't live with that for a year or 30 years. And so then you go on to the next partner and they trigger you too. You go, I can't live with that for 30 years. So you go on to the next one. You keep doing this. Or you're in a relationship and you're in a committed relationship and your partner triggers you. And you just live with those triggers and it keeps dinging you and it knocks you off the high-flying disc, as Abraham would say, and your vibration's a little bit just lower and then you're not attracting what you want to attract. So the idea is to attract what you've asked for and that life becomes magical because that's what you deserve. That's what every single person deserves. But in this step 5, what they explain is that most people, we love conditionally. And everyone's always talking about, I love you unconditionally, or I want to love unconditionally, or our love is unconditional. But truthfully, it's not. If someone triggers you, you don't love them at that moment, do you? It's conditioned. But if you can really shift your thinking, if you can really look at when someone triggers you or some situation triggers you and go, thank you, that is incredible contrast. Now I know that's something I don't want. And you can really appreciate that. And you can really love that person with all those triggers. All of a sudden you're approaching, or maybe you're just approaching. Maybe as humans we don't ever get there. But you're working towards unconditional love when that other person, whatever their triggers are, because everyone has triggers, because we're all imperfect. When that happens, if you can still love on that person fully, wholly, without it even dipping, while being at high vibration, that's unconditional love. And when you're doing that, then you're really loving contagiously, right? And since that's my purpose or mission in life, I think that's pretty cool. Now, I could even extend that and go like, this idea of self-love. What about if loving contagiously actually means loving myself contagiously? And the contagiously is if I'm loving myself unconditionally. If I mess up, I still love myself. I don't go, dang it, you stupid idiot. Why'd you do that? Why'd you say that? Instead, you just go, that's incredible contrast. Now I know I'm not going to do that again. I don't like that. Or that you do something really cool. Go, I'm going to do that again. That was kind of cool. And you're now loving yourself unconditionally, which is one of the things I was trying to figure out. Well, how does that work? What is that? I think I'm getting closer. And when you do that, and you all know this, when you love yourself, when you're being good to yourself, you vibrate high and you actually are loving contagiously. The people that come around you notice it, feel it, and then they might love a little bit more, a little bit better. And then, without even having to hand out love buttons from the 3D world, maybe you're in the 5D world and you're just passing on energy. You're passing on thoughts. You're passing on true loving. And it's contagious. So, that's my message for today about loving contagiously. I hope you got something out of it. It was fun kind of reliving the stories and sharing with you. If you got any questions, reach out to me, Robert at robertradnoti.com or robertradnoti.com, something like that. You can figure it out if you Google me. I'm everywhere. I'm coming to you from Boston, Massachusetts. I got here last night, going to spend the weekend here. Then I'm off to Rochester on Sunday to do NCS training with a beautiful group of people there. and then who knows where it comes next. In the meantime, live rad and love contagiously. Have a beautiful day.